Hello, Jesse of GKW Music here. In this video, I will be talking about my new product launches in spring of 2026, and I'll also be talking about my new educational objective, where I'll be launching a subscription on YouTube that will focus primarily on elementary band students and all levels of trumpet playing. So I hope you enjoy. First instrument that we'll be talking about today is our GKW student model B-flat clarinet. This is a student model clarinet that has a wood grain finish, ebonite, and when you hold it, you're going to feel an instrument that really feels, quite sturdy, quite well made for a student model clarinet. It has a very nice, warm sound, and it's extremely easy to get over the break. If you look on our Amazon, the reviews are, fantastic, all 4.5 and above. And from a price standpoint, our objective is to make a really solid student model instrument that's going to be accessible for the general public. So our student model B-flat trumpet clarinet is available at $175 from Amazon.com or also from Shopify. So if you have any questions regarding this or any of the other instruments that I will be talking about, please contact me at contact at gkw-music.com. And, you could just put in the subject line questions about, whatever it might be. And I will be sure to answer it. For my GKW student model flute, my first matter of business was to create a flute that was easy to play the F on. I can't tell you how many, local instrument rental places or used flutes or school flutes or, smaller brand flutes, or even, mainstream brand flutes. And, the student will pick it up and they'll start on the B flat C, and, that's all good and nice. But when they get to the F, it's a struggle. It's always a struggle, and you have to push the buttons down, right in the middle in order to get the maximum production. But even nonetheless, many times if you don't really have, a sufficient instrument, or if the instrument's neglected or whatever it might be, it's an uphill battle. And so I said to myself, every flute that comes off the line, it really better, be easy, to facilitate between F, D, E flat, and so forth. And I think that's what you're gonna see with the GKW student model flute. You're not gonna be struggling getting around your, first 5 or 6 notes, and that's really so important for student retention, especially for the flute. For me personally, and I think for a lot of people, getting started on flute could be a little tricky. You could take the clarinet, and you could B flat A G F E D C, and you could right away, if you guide the student, through how to hold it and so forth. If you've had students play 7, 8 notes right from the get-go, of course, with me, guiding them how to do it. And similar to the trumpet, but you can't do that on the flute. And holding the flute and getting started on the flute, it could be a rough ride at the beginning. And you want to make sure that you have the smoothest ride as far as facilitating between going between all the notes. And so our student model GKW flute is $175, and again, you can get it off of Amazon or by Shopify. And of course, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. as a band director, we all have our primary instrument, and my primary instrument is trumpet. And so, naturally, when it comes to the trumpet, I'm going to make sure I'm going to really vet, the whole process and make sure that, this is really the best bang for the buck. Um, and, really the valves facilitate really, quite fantastic. It's not sluggish. You don't hear the clunk, clunk, clunk. Really, to be quite honest, I mean, you know, you're not going to have too much of a problem. I mean, of course, there's a difference between, professional, middle grade, and, beginner instruments as far as, sound and so forth is concerned. But, this instrument will take you to a solid level 3, 4, you know, and you could even play fives. I played level 6 NISMA solos on this instrument. The sound is uh, warm, and it's a really solid sound. Um, all the reviews that I have on Amazon, will corroborate that. Uh, the trumpets, we have a 4.6 rating, and for $225, it's I think it's a steal. I mean, I've seen other peer, sort of peer kind of instruments that the valves sluggish. It's clunk, clunk, clunk. If you're playing 16th notes, if you're da 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 da, it's going to be a rough ride, and you're not going to have that with our GKW student model trumpet. So uh, please visit Amazon or Shopify, or again, reach out to me at contact@gkw-music.com, and just put the general gist of your inquiry in the subject line, and I will get back to you. The final component of GKW Music, it's not only designed to be instruments, quality instruments at a good price point. This is a chance for me to offer my experience over 20 years of teaching band, um, to the general public. And that's, these videos on YouTube they're going to be specially tailored um, for, really condensed advice that's going to, that should, for trumpet players, take you to the next level. I will be focusing on, embouchures, a nice set embouchure, how to, tricks to, to get your high register improved. The books that I like to use as far as scaffolding, um, levels 1 through 6 in trumpet. I will be offering advice for prospective band students in elementary school. What instrument should you choose? How do I, choose an instrument that might be good, for me? Um, and then the final thing I'll be doing is I'll also be, offering this advice could be really useful for young band educators. Uh, you know, giving pointers on, making a nice, efficient audition process that you're going to be able to have a nice group of clarinets that are going to be able to get from high B flat all the way down to maybe even the low A right away. And a trumpet section that is going to be able to go C, G, and maybe even up to the high C, right from the get go, and so forth. Um, you know, how am I going to audition students and get them placed on an instrument that's going to both, um, you know, reinforce retention, students sticking with it, going into junior high school and through high school, but also being on an instrument that they enjoy. It's sort of like a hybrid. of an instrument that they enjoy, but also an instrument that they're going to do well on. And I also find that when sometimes when students get into fifth grade, they'll come up to me and they'll say, "Can I, going into sixth grade, can you, teach me the flute? They were playing the trumpet. Can you teach me the flute?" I will find that the process, the hands-on process of learning an instrument, that when students choose to pick up another instrument, the process of learning that instrument is much faster. It's extremely fast. It's quite remarkable. Um, and so these are just some of the pointers that like I'll be talking about in my videos. Um, it will be a subscription. I might have some videos at the beginning that are not a subscription. Um, and there'll be a Patreon link, because the subscription is going to be a very cheap monthly thing, $2 a month. But there'll be a Patreon so that if you whatever you feel that you get out of these videos, you could donate to my Patreon. For example, for trumpet, and getting into the high range, you know I will give you, or my any of my students, information, really valuable information that will get you from Ennismo level 1 high range all the way up to like Ennismo level 5 or 6 high range in an extremely short amount of time. And you could be going to a private trumpet teacher, and you could be going 30, 40, 50, 60 times, and you make relatively, small incremental process where the information that I'm giving you will be the equivalent of, a year or more worth of work. Um, so, I think that's where it comes in. So I hope that you will join me. I'll post some, you know, be, you know, beginner videos that are not a subscription, and then I'll probably pivot to a subscription standpoint. Um, and then we'll go from there, and we'll see, how many people we get on board. But, the goal is to share my experience, my 20 years of experience, and, combine that with the quality instruments that, I have, in my music store, uh, to really give students a great foundation to take it to the next level. And, for trumpet, once you get to a 4 or 5, then you can consider going to more of an intermediate model instrument. But this instrument line is designed to get you through, you know, 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th grade. So on that note, wish you all a good evening, and thank you for watching this video, and there'll be much more to come.